Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Cathedral. We hope that you have enjoyed a wonderful holiday season, and as we enter this new year of 2015, we invite you to worship with us at the Sunshine Cathedral on Sundays at 9 and 10:30 a.m. If you're in the Fort Lauderdale area, we're very easy to find. We invite you to worship with us in person, but if you're worshiping with us via the website, we say many blessings to you and hope that you will have an opportunity to visit our campus soon. But now, as we enter this new year of 2015, join us now for the exciting worship here at the Sunshine Cathedral.
Our first reading is a reading from the tale of Daniel. I saw in the night visions, and there was one like a human being coming with the clouds of heaven. He came to and was presented before the Ancient of Days. There was given to that one dominion and glory and a realm that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, nor ever be destroyed. In these human words, God's voice is heard.
Our second reading is a reading from the Gospel according to Mark. Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice. This is my Son, the beloved. Listen to him. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them to tell no one about what they had experienced until after the human one had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what is this rising from the dead could mean. In these human words, God's voice is heard.
When I was a kid growing up in Pennsylvania, we went to Sunday school every week at our home church, the Brockway Presbyterian Church. And the weekly Sunday school class was held before the church services, so it was my job as the oldest child to go and pick up my younger sister and brother from their classrooms before we would go into the big church. I remember one Sunday morning, I went to get my brother Scott, and I could tell just by looking at him that he was really unhappy. He had his arms crossed, and he just looked so angry. Now, he was about 5 years old at the time, so it didn't take a whole lot for Scott to be upset. My sister and I tried talking to him before we took him into the sanctuary, but he was just really, really unhappy, and there wasn't so much that we could do. So we just went into the sanctuary, and we took our seats with our parents. I remember that my sister and I sat on the one side. We sat on the right side of our mother, while my brother, who was the youngest, sat in between our parents. And my mother saw immediately that Scott was unhappy, so of course she began asking him questions. She said to him, "How was Sunday school?" And Scott just went, he just shrugged his shoulders. He didn't say anything. "Did you sing?" And he nodded his head, yes. "Did you color some pictures?" And again, he just nodded his head, yes. And my mother said, "Scott, is it? What is it? What's the matter? What's going on?" To which my brother announced to everyone within earshot, "I am just so sick of those old Jesus stories." That is true. My brother is 45 years old now, and we like to remind him of that periodically. What Scott hadn't yet discovered is that the Bible is full of really, really interesting stories, and truly, that's exactly what they are. I mean, snakes don't really talk, and bushes just generally don't burst into flame. We have to remember that much of what we read in the Bible is simply meant to teach us a lesson. In the reading from Mark's Gospel this morning, we hear of a rather amazing event in Jesus' life and his ministry. It's a story that appears in all three of the synoptic Gospels: Mark's Gospel, which we heard Deacon Michael read this morning, as well as Matthew and Luke. But it isn't a story that's often recognized for its importance. For those churches and faith communities who follow the common lectionary, as we do here at Sunshine Cathedral, this Sunday is referred to as Transfiguration Sunday. It's the last Sunday before the season of Lent begins, and it's the day in which we reflect on the transfiguration of Jesus, the recognition of Jesus' divinity by his friends and his followers. And in this story, we hear of how Jesus went to the top of a mountain with Peter and with James and John, and there Jesus was transfigured before them. His friends saw a cloud overshadow them, and they heard a voice coming from this cloud, "This is my beloved. Listen to him." Note that the voice of God, or the voice of the divine, doesn't say, "Listen to me," but "Listen to him." That's something very new. In the Hebrew scriptures, which were the sacred text for Jesus and his community, it's always God speaking. But when we fast forward to the New Testament, it is Jesus bringing the transforming love as a messenger of God's hope. This idea of the voice of hope coming to people who are so oppressed, it was the only thing that they had to hang on to. They had nothing else but that hope. And we know from our studies and from other messages that Reverend Durrell has preached, many people living in ancient times were horribly, horribly oppressed, and sadly that is still often the case today. These people, all people, they were looking for something, someone who could give them the hope that they desired. Now I have to imagine that the followers of Jesus who were with him on that mountain were absolutely startled by what had occurred. This transfiguration, it's a moment of revelation. It's a time when the heavens are torn open and the voice of God is heard. God has entered into the story to reveal what has been hidden from human perception. This person, Jesus, is someone truly important and someone that we must pay attention to. And the scene of the Transfiguration is guiding those with Jesus, his friends and his disciples, to see Jesus' true identity as a person filled with divinity and as fully part of God. When this voice tells them to pay attention to Jesus, the disciples witness that the realm of God has come, and it has come with power and with peace and with hope. In Mark chapter 8, the section just before today's reading, Jesus explains to his followers that the good news that he brings could cause them to lose their life. He shares with them, if you lose your life for this reason, you will save it. And that can be a little bit confusing, but let me explain. When we don't live our lives authentically, when we bow to what other people want, we can feel confused. We can feel lost. And we can feel disconnected from who we really are. But if we live in a way in which we are genuine and honest, and when we act upon our concern and compassion for others, we will feel whole, and we will feel complete, and we will feel staved in whatever way that is meaningful to us. This idea of losing our lives to save our lives is really less about having regret for the past and is more about agreeing to a change of our minds and a change of our hearts. It's about sharing light and love and, again, hope. And the story of the Transfiguration is a powerful message to each of us, that to follow the message of Jesus is to exhibit divine love in the midst of wrongdoing. We are reminded that Jesus didn't die because his suffering could purge the world of sin and darkness. There was none of that. Jesus was executed because his message of love and of peace was transformative and redemptive, and it absolutely threatened the Roman Empire. Jesus' mission was not to make a big deal of himself or to elevate his followers to positions of power and prestige. On the contrary, Jesus' task was to point beyond himself, to reach out to those in the margins of society, and to remind us of God's unconditional love for all. That kind of message in any society is absolutely transformative. There's one image in this Transfiguration story which really resonates with me, and that is Jesus and his followers going to the top of the mountain. It's kind of an innocent image, an innocuous image, but it's an image filled with great meaning. In ancient times, people would go to the top of a mountain in order to be closer to God. Now, of course, people in ancient times believed that the earth was flat, and there was a big old dome over the earth, and above that dome was heaven, and God resided up there. But this idea of mountaintop experiences has become part of our society's vernacular. When we speak of encountering the divine, and when we refer to times in our lives that are most important, we call them peak moments, or high points, or mountaintop experiences. They are moments of transcendence in which the answers to our questions become very clear. Now, of course, these peak experiences, they don't often come easily. When we are searching for that something special that gives more meaning to our lives, we yearn for an experience that will clarify our questions and clarify our existence. I would guess that many of us have certain moments in our lives that we consider to be those peak moments when everything seems to make more sense. This search for transcendence, it may require us to crawl up those mountains, crying out for our lives. And when we reach it, when we reach that mountaintop, we may want to stay there, just simply relishing, simply enjoying this newfound understanding. But as Jesus' disciples soon found out, and as we often find out, you just can't stay where you are. That isn't what we're called to do. We are called to walk out to the edge of the mountain, to step out on the precipice and go where we are led. I remember finding this church, Sunshine Cathedral, and how transformative it was for me. I had been searching for quite a while for a faith community that would welcome me for all of who I am, but honestly, I wasn't having much luck. A friend told me about Sunshine Cathedral, and I finally attended, and I heard the message that I had been seeking, that message of inclusive love and of welcome. And I knew that I had had what you might call a mountaintop experience, an experience which is life-changing. I was filled with hope, and I was filled with joy, and I thought to myself for just a little while, okay, I'm good. I don't need to do anything else. I'll just stay here. But after visiting Sunshine Cathedral for some time, I could see that simply attending church wasn't going to work for me. I needed to do more. I knew that I had to help share the message of this ministry, so I began volunteering until I found what worked for me. I had a mountaintop experience by finding the church, but I knew after some time that I just couldn't hold on to what I found and keep it for myself. I knew that there had to be more. I knew that my experience was good, and I knew that it could be better. I stepped out onto the precipice, and I made some pretty serious changes in my life. I left my corporate job of 18 years to come on staff here full time, and now I'm preaching on a Sunday morning. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in a very famous speech to support the Memphis sanitation workers, stated the night before his assassination, "I just want to do God's will. And God has inspired me to go up to the mountain, and I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land." And the wonderful author Zora Neale Hurston shares, "I have been in sorrow's kitchen and licked out all the pots. Then I have stood on the peaky mountain, wrapped in rainbows, with a harp in my hands." And actress Cicely Tyson tells us, "I think when you begin to think of yourself as having achieved something, then there's nothing left for you to work towards. I want to believe that there is a mountain so high that I will spend my entire life striving to reach the top of it." These peak experiences show us there is always something greater, something better, something we can strive towards. I would guess that Jesus' friends wondered what this transfiguration was all about. They had been to the top of a mountain. They heard the voice of the divine. They left that safe place, and they went back down the mountain to begin doing the hard work, the work that is often difficult and unappreciated, and the work that is most important. What is it that you are being called to do? What does your transfiguration look like? As we prepare for our Lenten journey, let each of us focus on our own transformation. And if you're not sure what that is, and if you're looking for ways in which to deepen your journey, take part in our Lenten study series, which begins next Wednesday, the 25th. Be intentional about your own spiritual practices. Look for ways to make your lives more meaningful. To me, Lent isn't about giving up something. It's about transforming our lives. It's about crawling to the top of the mountain and finding your promised land, the work that you are called to do. And when you do that, when you are willing to embrace your mountaintop journey, listen for that still small voice, that voice that will tell you, you are my beloved, and this is the good news. Amen.
Hello, I want to thank you for joining us for worship today here at the Sunshine Cathedral. Again, if you're ever in the Fort Lauderdale area, please stop by and worship with us on Sundays at 9 and 10:30 a.m. If you'd like to find out more about the Sunshine Cathedral, about our resources, or about our books published by our senior pastor, the Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins, or if you'd like to make a donation to the Sunshine Cathedral, please visit us at www.sunshinecathedral.org. Until the next time, may God continue to richly bless you on your journey.